Oh, okay. Well, we're reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Good morning, Dandavats. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Anjalila, chapter 20. It's describing all the chapters of the previous readings. In the 9th chapter is a description of how Gopinath Patanaka was delivered and how the people of the three worlds were able to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the 10th chapter, I have described how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tasted the food given by his devotees, and have also described the assortments in the bags of Raghava Pandit. Also in that chapter is a description of how the Lord examined Govinda and how he danced in the temple. The 11th chapter describes the disappearance of Haridas Thakur and how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, showed his affection for his devotees. In the 12th chapter are descriptions of how Jagannathananda broke a pot of oil and how Lord Nityananda chastised Shivananda Sain. In the 13th chapter, Jagannathananda Pandit went to Mathura and returned, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chance heard a song sung by a Devadasi dancing girl. Also in the 13th chapter, Raghunath Bhatta met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who by his causeless mercy sent him to Vrindavan. The 14th chapter describes the beginning of the Lord's spiritual trance, in which his body was at Jagannath Puri, but his mind was in Vrindavan. Also in that chapter is a description of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell down in front of the Simhadwara gate of Jagannath temple, his bones separated at the joints, and how various transcendental symptoms awakened. Also in that chapter there is a description of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ran towards Chatak Parvat and spoke like a madman. In the 15th chapter is a description of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered a garden on the shore of the sea, mistaking the garden for Vrindavan. Also in that chapter is a description of the attraction of Lord Chaitanya's 5 senses to Krishna and how he searched for Krishna in the Rasa dance. The 17th chapter tells how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his mercy to Kalidas and thus demonstrated the result of eating the remnants of the food of the Vaishnavas. It also describes how Shivananda's son composed the verse and how the doorkeeper of the Simhadwara showed Krishna to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also in that chapter, the glories of Mahaprasadam are explained, and a verse is also tasted describing the effect of the nectar of the lips of Krishna. In the 17th chapter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell among the cows and assumed the form of a tortoise as his ecstatic emotions awakened. Also in the 17th chapter, the attributes of Krishna's sound attracted the mind of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who described in ecstasy the meaning of Kastri Ange Te verse. Due to the connection of various ecstatic emotions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again began speaking like a madman and described in detail the meaning of a verse from Krishna Karnamrita. In the 18th chapter, the Lord fell into the ocean, and in ecstasy he saw the pastimes of the water fight between Krishna and the gopis. In that dream, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Krishna's picnic in the forest. As Lord Chaitanya floated on the sea, a fisherman caught him, and then the Lord returned to his own residence. In the 19th chapter is a description of how Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rubbed his face against the walls and spoke like a madman because of separation from Krishna. That chapter also describes Krishna's wandering in a garden on a spring night, and it fully describes the meaning of a verse about the scent of Krishna's body. In the 20th chapter, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited his own 8 stanzas of instructions and tasted their meaning in ecstatic love. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu composed these 8 stanzas to instruct the devotees, but he also personally tasted their meaning. I have thus described the principal pastimes and their meaning, for by such repetition one can remember the descriptions in the book. In every chapter there are various topics, but I have selected only those that are principal, for not all of them could be described again. The Vrindavan deities of Madan and Mohan with Srimati Radharani, Govinda with Srimati Radharani, and Gopinath with Srimati Radharani are the life and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So that my desires may be fulfilled, I place the lotus feet of these personalities on my head. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya and their devotees, as well as Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami, Sri Swarupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, who is my spiritual master, and Srila Jiva Goswami. The mercy of their lotus feet is my spiritual master, and my words are my disciples that I have made dance in various ways. Seeing the fatigue of the disciples, the spiritual master has stopped making them dance, and because that mercy no longer makes them dance, my words now sit silent. My inexperienced words do not know how to dance by themselves. The mercy of the Guru made them dance as much as possible, and now, after dancing, they have taken rest. I now worship the lotus feet of all my readers, for by the mercy of their lotus feet there is all good fortune. If one hears the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, I wash his lotus feet and drink the water. I decorate my head with the dust of the lotus feet of my audience. Now you have all drunk this nectar, and therefore my labor is successful. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Chaitanya Charitamrita is filled with the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. It invokes all good fortune and destroys everything inauspicious. If one tastes the nectar of Chaitanya Charitamrita with faith and love, I become like a bumblebee tasting the honey of transcendental love from his lotus feet. Since this book, Chaitanya Charitamrita, is now complete, I have been written for satisfaction of the most opulent deities, Madan and Mohan Ji and Govinda Ji, let it be offered at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Dev. Realized devotees are like bumblebees, maddened by their own mellows at Krishna's lotus feet. The scent of those lotus feet perfumes the entire world. Who is the realized soul that can give them up? In Vrindavan, in the year 1537, Sakabda era, in the month of Jayastri, May-June, on Sunday, the 5th day of the waning moon, this Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita has been completed. Jai. That's so sweet. Okay, this is something written by Srila Prabhupada at the end. Swami Maharaj. I'm going to read that. Concluding words. Today, Sunday, November the 10th, 1974, corresponding with the 10th of Kartika Chaitanya era 488, the 11th day of the dark fortnight, the Rama Ekadashi, maybe it's not from Sudapara, anyway, we can find out. We have now finished the English translation of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in accordance with the authorized order of His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj, my beloved eternal spiritual master, guide and friend. Although according to material vision, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, passed away from this material world on the last day of December 1936. Interesting. I still consider His Divine Grace to be always present with me by His Vani, His words. There are two ways of association, by Vani and by Vapu. Vani means words and Vapu means physical presence. Physical presence is sometimes appreciable and sometimes not, but Vani continues to exist eternally. Therefore, we must take advantage of the Vani, not the physical presence. Bhagavad Gita, for example, is the Vani of Lord Krishna. Although Krishna was personally present 5,000 years ago and is no longer physically present from the materialistic point of view, Bhagavad Gita continues. In this connection, we may call to memory the time when I was fortunate enough to meet His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, sometime in the year 1922. Srila Prabhupada had come to Calcutta from Sridham Mayapur to start the missionary activities of the Gaudiya Math. He was sitting in a house at Altadanga when, through the inducement of an intimate friend, the late Sriman Narendranath Malika, I had the opportunity to meet His Divine Grace for the first time. I do not remember the actual date of the meeting, but at that time I was one of the managers of Dr. Bose Laboratory in Calcutta. I was newly married, young man, addicted to Gandhi's movement, and dressed in khadi. Fortunately, even at our first meeting, His Divine Grace advised me to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in English in the Western countries. Because at that time I was a complete nationalist, a follower of Mahatma Gandhi's, I submitted to His Divine Grace that unless our country were freed from foreign subjugation, no one would hear the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seriously. Of course, we had some argument on this subject, but at last I was defeated and convinced that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message is the only panacea for suffering humanity. I was also convinced that the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was then in the hands of a very dear expert devotee, and that surely the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would spread all over the world. I could not, however, immediately take up his instruction to preach, but I took his words very seriously and was always thinking of how to execute his order, although I was quite unfit to do so. In this way, I passed life as a householder until 1950, when I retired from family life as a vanaprastha. With no companion, I loitered here and there until 1958, when I took sannyas. Then I was completely ready to discharge the order of my spiritual master. Previously, in 1936, just before His Divine Grace passed away at Jagannath Puri, I wrote him a letter asking what I could do to serve him. In reply, he wrote me a letter dating 13th December 1936, ordering me in the same way to preach in English the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as I have heard it from him. After he passed away, I started the fortnightly magazine Back to Godhead sometime in 1944 and tried to spread the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through this magazine. After I took sannyas, as well, a well-wishing friend suggested that I wrote books instead of magazines. Magazines, he said, might be thrown away, but books remain perpetually. When I attempted to write Srimad Bhagavatam, before that, when I was a householder, I had written on Srimad Bhagavad Gita and had completed about 1,100 pages, but somehow or other the manuscript was stolen. In any case, when I had published Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, in 3 volumes in India, I thought of going to the USA. By the mercy of His Divine Grace, I was able to come to New York on September 17th, 1965. Since then, I have translated many books, including Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya, a summary, and many others. In the meantime, I was induced to translate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and publish it in an elaborate edition. In his leisure time in later life, His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, would simply read Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was his favorite book. He used to say that there would be a time when foreigners would learn the Bengal language to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. The work on this translation began about 18 months ago. Now, by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it is finished. In this connection, I have to thank my American disciples, especially Sriman Pradyumna Das Adhikar, Sriman Pradyumna Das Adhikar, Sriman Nitai Das Adhikar, Sriman Jayadvaita Das Brahmachari, and many other boys and girls who are sincerely helping me in writing, editing, and publishing all these literatures. I think that His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, is always seeing my activities and guiding me within my heart by His words. As it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Ten Brahma Hida Yad Adi Kevya. Spiritual association comes from within the heart, wherein the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in His Paramatma feature, is always sitting with all His devotees and associates. It is to be admitted that whatever translation work I have done is through the inspiration of my spiritual master, because personally I am most insignificant and incompetent to do this materially impossible work. I do not think myself a very learned scholar, but I do have faith in the service of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. If there is any credit to my activities of translating, it is all due to His Divine Grace. Certainly, if His Divine Grace were physically present at this time, it would have been a great occasion for jubilation. But even though He is not physically present, I am confident that He is very pleased by this work of translation. He was very fond of seeing many books published to spread the Krishna conscious movement. Therefore, our society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, has formed to execute the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It is my wish that the devotees of Lord Chaitanya all over the world enjoy this translation, and I am glad to express my gratitude to the learned men in the Western countries who are so pleased with my work that they are ordering in advance all my books that will be published in the future. On this occasion, therefore, I request my disciples who are determined to help me in the work to continue their cooperation fully, so that philosophers, scholars, religionists, and people in general all over the world will benefit by reading our transcendental literatures such as Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, dated November 10th, 1974, at Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, Hare Krishna Land, Juhu, Bombay. Jai! Wasn't that cool? The history. We love history. Well, I'll read a little bit also from the sermons of the Garden of Devotion while we're here. So in a new chapter, called... This is Sermons of Devotion, Volume 2, Chapter 9, The Divine Agent. Let's see if it's really long. Go through it half and half, maybe. There seems to be a question. I've heard that there is one American scientist who is researching, and he says that if we can get one cell from the body of Napoleon, he can make many Napoleons. In a potato, many sprouts may come, and if we cut them, one sprout will produce a potato plant. So also in the human body, there are many cells, and according to their scientific theory, we can somehow create a man from one of the characteristic cells of his body. The mentality, the vigor, everything is contained in every particle of which the body is constructed. In a general sense, there is some importance in bodily or hereditary succession. In India, some recognition given to the caste, Brahmins, those born in the Brahmin families, but there are exceptions. So a birth from a Sudra, labor class, or Malecha, race devoid of Vedic culture, body is generally considered impure. From their ancestors, they do not observe the particular rites or pure customs, and the impurity is there. Many of the smarter section and Sankarite interpreters, and some of the Madhva school also, hold that by chanting the holy name of Lord, Harinam, The purification of the subtle body is effected, but the karma which is destined to be suffered or enjoyed in this particular body cannot be purified by Harinam or anything else. Karma, or the action that we have done in our previous life, is classified. The 4 types of sin known as aparada, kuta, bija, and palun mukha are generally eradicated for persons exclusively attached to the devotion for Supreme Lord Vishnu. Prarabdha is the karma or action which has been attached to be enjoyed or suffered in this body. And aprarabdha, sorry, my pronunciation is horrific. Aprarabdha, is that which is deposited to be experienced in the future. Prarabdha means that which has already begun, and aprarabdha is that which has been reserved for the future. The stages of progress from manifest to unmanifest are classified in 3: kutam, bijam, palun, mukham. We can find this discussed in detail by Srila Rupa Goswami, with various scriptural quotations in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Kutam means the undetectable portion of our past action. We cannot read the actions and results contained there, present in a microscopic way. They are undetectable to us. We are told that in Japan they are preserving a library where the letters of the book cannot be read by the ordinary eye. The letters are so tiny that they cannot be read by the naked eye, but they must be magnified by a microscopic process. So kutam is that which is undetectable, like a plane of action that will gradually manifest and demand its satisfaction. Bijam, or seed, means something which is more detectable, more clear. We can identify a particular seed and know which type of plant it will produce. And palun mukham refers to actions that are waiting to achieve their realization very soon. They are demanding. In the stage of prarabdha, the previous actions have reached their satisfaction in this body. These are the divisions. The general Vedic scholars are of the opinion that prarabdha, or that which has already begun to be experienced in this body, cannot be changed. It is out of hand. And reactions that are reserved for the future may be finished by our good activity, and we may not have to undergo them. But the Gaudiya Vaishnava school says that this prarabdha can also be removed. What is already destined to be experienced in this body can be removed by Harinam and by no other means. Only Krishna Nam, Harinam, can purify one from that which is already begun to be experienced in this body. He may be purified. A Sudra or Malecha properly taking Harinam may be converted to Brahmanism. It is possible by Harinam. The Gaudiya school has given quotations from different places, and by analysis of the meaning of those quotations, it holds that one may be free from the prarabdha karma, which has already begun to be experienced in this life. I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the most beloved, am attainable by the pure saints by virtue of their potency of their exclusive devotion born of faith. Exclusive devotion to me purifies even the lowest outcasts known as chandalas. Swa means dog. Even the dog eaters, that is the lower section, can also be purified from their low birth. Another verse in the same line of thought is this. Devahuti said, O Lord, if he just hears your name, then chants it, offers you obeisance and remembers you, even a person born as a dog-eater outcast instantly becomes eligible to perform the Soma sacrifice, to say nothing of the purification of those who see you directly. Those dog-eaters and lowest class of people can be immediately purified by taking the holy name of the Lord. When the Parabda has gone, the person becomes like Indra, but not Indra proper, a little less. Savanya Kalpate means Indra Kalpa. Now please note very attentively Sri Jiva Goswami's remark on this commentary. Savyanya Kalpa means he becomes purified to such a standard that he can perform the sacrifice which is reserved only for the Brahmanas. Kalpate means a little different. So here Jiva Goswami has given his own commentation. What is the difference? When that person's Parabda has gone, he attains the position of a boy of a Brahmana. But that boy is not allowed to perform the Brahmana yagya until and unless he is given a sacred thread. A samskara, purificatory ceremony, is necessary. Janmana jayate sudra. By birth, everyone is impure, but by samskara they are purified. But who will be fit for the samskara? Only the Brahmana boy. Now he reaches the stage of the Brahmana boy and not the Brahmana. He may have come from any caste, but after taking Harinam, he should be considered to have reached the stage of Brahmana boy. And again, when the Gayatri Samskara or Brahmana Samskara is given, he gets the recognition of a bona fide Brahmana. He can perform the Yagya and Shalagram Marchana. Shalagram Archana, worship of the deity Shalagram Shila, etc. So, with the Harinam taking the name of the Lord, in a proper way, of course, the karma vanishes, and with body purified, he is considered to be a Brahmana boy. And when the sacred thread is conferred to him, he will become eligible for the Brahminical activities. So this is a scientific position. So, Pancharatrika Diksha may not be necessary. Harinam is sufficient. Still, the Brahmana Samskara, the Gayatri or Vedic Samskara is given, and Pancharatnika Diksha is also given to help him to a greater degree. For example, one may win a university scholarship, and there may also be a district scholarship that comes to help him. The student's university scholarship is all important, but some servient appreciation also comes to somewhat enhance its position. The Harinam circle is the purifying circle, and it is the greatest circle, extending its circumference from the lowest to the highest. And the Pancharatnika help is a circle within the circle, and it will help the candidate in taking the name and other important practices. But without it, one may also practice. Right. Hope for everyone, even the dog and the dog eater. Jai Gurudev. More tomorrow. More. Jai. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Dev Goswami Maharaj. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Vaita Gadadhar Sri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Take it away.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopala Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudana.
Giridhari Gopinath Madhana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madhana Mohana.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra.
Radha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Radha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunatha.
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunatha.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Rasa Raghunatha.
Shri Jiva Ragopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha.
Nichai Goshai Kori Charana Vandana.
Nichai Gosai Kori Charana Bandana.
Jahoite Vignana Savisa Purana.
Yahoite Vignana Savisa Purana.
Nichai Goshai Jaranuri Tarara.
Nichai Gosai Muritana Dasa.
Asavara Pada Denu Maura Panchagasa.
Ansavara Pada Denu Mora Panchagasa.
Adara Charana Seve Bhakti Sane Vasa.
Andira Charana Sevi Bhakta Sane Vasa.
Janame Maura Eya Vilasha.
Janame Mo Eya Vilasa.
Nichai Goshai Jave Bhaje Kolavasa.
Nichai Gosai Abe Braja Kola Vasa.
Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakasha.
Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Kolela Prakasa.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavana.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavana.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Madhyayi Amana.
Sri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majari Amana.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padman Koriyasa.
Sri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Kodiyasa.
Hari Nam Sankirtana Kore Narottama Dasa.
Hari Nam Sankirtana Kore Narottama Dasa.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama 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 Hare
Hare
Hare.
Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. Jai Spadaka Sisi Guru Garanga Sundara Giri Hajuki Jai. Jai Sulabhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Sulabhakti Ratchat Sudha Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Sulabhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Sulabhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Rupanuga Guru Raga Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. All the universal devotees Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Bol.